Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are going to talk about the Ten Commandments. Oh my, there's so much that we have to talk about today. I'd like to begin, and we kind of talked about it last week, but I'd like to begin by talking about who is going to receive the Ten Commandments. We are right now in the wilderness of Sinai. I say we, Israel's seed. Who is Israel's seed? You know what? We read the children of Israel. We think there's ladies there. We think there's servants there. We think there's Ger there. Well, we don't believe there's Ger. We don't even know that there's Ger. But we think everybody's there. I want to help you understand who is there. We talked about it a little bit last week. We actually talked about it quite a lot last week. But I've come into some other understandings that I think we should look at. If we go back to Exodus 16 was when we received or began receiving the manna in the wilderness. Look what it says. And they journeyed from Elim, and all the congregation of Israel's seed, again, it says children of Israel. When I was a boy, it said the men of Israel, but that's not right either. We're talking about spiritually born seed, Ezra men. I want to talk a little bit about that again today as well. It says the congregation of Israel's seed came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month. So now, remember, line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. If we go to Exodus 12, this is the Passover chapter. And we look at 19. Here it is. It says, for 7 days, no leaven shall be found in your houses. Let me make this bigger so you can see it better. No leaven, 19, no leaven shall be found in your houses. Since whoever eats what is leavened, that same soul, it says soul, that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel. There's the same word, the assembly of Israel, the congregation of Israel. But now it defines who that is, whether he is a stranger or an Ezra of the land. They say native of the land. We're talking about an Ezra of the land, the land's Ezra. Remember, with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, it was all about the seed and the land, the seed and the land, the seed and the land. Jehovah has to raise up seed so he can give them the land. This chapter, Passover, is about the stranger and the native of the land, a.k.a. the children of Israel, a.k.a. Israel's seed, more appropriately. You can change those. They are interchangeable. Israel's seed and Ezra, they're the same thing. This chapter is about the Ger. Remember, it's a Ger and the native of the land, the Ezra. Here, I'll show you. Here's the word. Here, this is the Ger. There's the Ger. Here's the Ezra. The Ezra. It's the Ezra. The land's Ezra is what it is. The land's Ezra. Here's the land. Aretz. Ezra Aretz. The land and the seed. The land and the seed. The land and the seed. So now, when we go back to the end of this chapter, look what it says. This is where it says, and when the stranger dwells with you and wants to keep the Passover, to Yehovah, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it, and he shall become a native of the land, an Ezra Haaretz. For no uncircumcised person shall eat it. One law shall be for the native born and the stranger who dwells among you. Many times we're going to see in the scriptures, it's going to say, Israel's seed, well, it's going to say the children of Israel and the stranger who dwells with you. So this is where the man who left the kingdom of his birth, the Elohim of his birth, in this case, it would have been the Elohim who were in Egypt, who were ruling over them. They left those Elohim. They joined themselves to Yehovah and his Ezra men. Then at Passover, these same strangers, these Ger, became Ezra men, Israel's seed. So now look what it says. Thus all Israel's seed did, as Yehovah commanded Moses and Aaron, so they did. And it came to pass on the very same day that Yehovah brought Israel's seed out of the land of Egypt, according to their armies. We didn't get to leave. Hey, Nancy, I'm glad you made it, honey. We're glad you're here. We did not get to leave until we became the seed. What did he say? Let my son, my firstborn, Israel, go that he might serve me. I'm saying all this because I want you to see in 18, Exodus 18. Nope, actually, next chapter, 19. It says, on the third month, after Israel's seed had gone out of the land of Egypt, on the same day, this is the first day of the third month, they came to the wilderness of Sinai. Who came? Was this the congregation of Israel? Were the Ger there? No. This is just Israel's seed, the Ezra men. Oh, well, there's another name, Israel's seed, Ezra men, and Israel itself. Just flat out Israel. That is the Ezra men. So they've come to Mount Sinai with Moses. They are his special treasure, his sagula that we talked about last week. The thing that he held so close to himself and protects so diligently. They are a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Why? Because they follow only Yehovah's statutes, judgments, and ordinances. He told us that he was going to come and speak to us. And he said this. And he said to the people, be ready for the third day. Do not come near a woman. They say, your wives, there were no ladies there. Don't go near a woman. Why? If she's in her menses, she's going to make you unclean. But this is very significant because it's not saying don't go near a man. It says don't go near a woman. That means everyone who's coming to the mountain are men. Men, men, men. We're going to see this very, very clearly as we go through the Ten Commandments. Who is Yehovah speaking to when he speaks these within our hearing? We're going to find out. So let's go to 20. And the first thing I want to talk about is this word Elohim. If you watched me read and listened to me read, you will see often that I never read God. 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 We don't know what a God is. What do you think about when you think about God? Do you think about lawmakers and judges? This is exactly what we're talking about, lawmakers and judges. Who are your lawmakers and who are your judges? You say, many say, they serve God. I serve God. But do ya? I'm here to tell you, most of you serve the Elohim of the land. You follow their judgments, their statutes, their ordinances, because you're afraid. But remember, the fear of Yahovah is the beginning of wisdom. We have got to learn to follow only Yahovah. This is why we leave the kingdom of our birth and the Elohim that we served and become a ger with Israel, the Ezra men. And then at Passover, we can get circumcised and become the Ezra men, the seed. We get to inherit the land of Israel. But we don't understand what a God is. Do we think about sun God? What do we think about? Oh, well, I serve God. I serve the God of heaven. No, you don't. You don't. You've got to separate yourself from the covenants that you have with the kingdom of this world. In 2000, I took my driver's license. Prima facie evidence of who you belong to, who your Elohim is. And I signed it under duress. And from that point, I never got another ticket. Why? Because something signed under duress is an invalid signature. I'm not theirs. But the divorce court is unruly. I'm talking about what's going on with even Trump these days, being convicted in 34 cases, 34 charges. Ridiculous. They do what they want. And when they tried to use my driver's license that was signed under duress against me, I gave it back. And you know what her attorney said? Your Honor, we have no control over this man. Prima facie evidence of who you belong to, the driver's license is. I showed them they were not my Elohim. I already had it signed under duress. And I told them who I served. I had a declaration of status I put into the court. They don't care. But when I got rid of that driver's license, oh, they were so angry. See, there's things that we have been tricked into doing so that we take other Elohim besides Yahovah. It says, and Elohim spoke all these words. Let's go to the next verse. Here he begins. He says, Ani, Anoki, Yahovah. I am Yahovah. He says, Elohika, Elohika, you're Elohim. Our Elohim, if we are Ezra men, is only Yahovah, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. He says, you shall have no other Elohim existing before my face. No Elohim existing before my face. Nobody that tells you what you need to do except me. Now, I think this is really interesting. Here's Yehovah bringing his son, his firstborn, Israel, to the mountain of Yehovah. It reminds me of something, and I'm going to show it to you. It's in Deuteronomy 4. Here it is. I'm going to read just a little bit to you before I get into the meat of this. Surely I have done, but verse 5. Surely I have taught you statutes and judgments, as Yehovah, my Elohim, commanded me, that you should act according to them in the land which you go to possess. Therefore be careful to observe them, for this is thy wisdom, probably your wisdom, and your understanding in the sight of the peoples who hear these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what great nation is there that has Elohim so near to it? As Yehovah, our Elohim, is to us. I am Yehovah, thy Elohim. For whatever reason, we call upon him. And what great nation is there that has such statutes and judgments as are in this law, which I set before you this day? Only take heed to yourself, to diligently keep yourself, lest you forget. This has a stronger. Only guard them. Guard these statutes and judgments. And guard thy soul diligently, is what it's saying. Lest thou forget the things your eyes have seen, lest they depart from thy heart all the days of thy life, and teach them to thy sons and thy sons' sons. It says children and grandchildren. No, sons and thy sons' seed is actually what it says. Thy sons and thy sons' seed, these are all spiritually born men. We teach our sons and our sons' seed, just as Yehovah, our Father, teaches his sons at the mountain right now. Oh my goodness. Look at it. I'm going to continue reading just a little bit more, especially concerning the day you stood before Yehovah your Elohim in Horeb. This is where we are today. This is where the 10 Commandments were standing in front of him right now. When Yehovah said to me, gather the people to me, and let them hear my words, that they may learn to fear me all the days they live on the earth, and that they may teach their sons. Then you came near and stood at the foot of the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire to the midst of heaven, with darkness and cloud and a thick darkness. This is where Yehovah is always in, the clouds and the thick darkness. As we teach our sons, Yehovah teaches his sons. Let's go back. He says, I am Yehovah who brought thee. I am Yehovah, your Elohim, who brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. The next thing we have to talk about is who's the thee? We're already seeing it's the Ezra men, Israel's seed, or Israel. But it says thee. This is singular, masculine, second person, singular, masculine. This is each man individually, or Keep in mind, Ezra, there is no plural for Ezra. His son is his Ezra. So it could actually be the group that he's talking to all at once. Because they are each they are each I'm going to say it, the Elohim of their families. Oh my goodness, did you hear what I just said? They are the Elohim of their families. Let me show you a couple things. I know some of these things I'm going to teach you are radical. Line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. He talks about bringing his son, my firstborn is Israel. So I say to you, let my son go that he may serve me. His son is the plural he, the man-child. We see this in Isaiah. We see this in Ezekiel. You could probably say you see it in Revelation. I don't really go there. Jehovah's son serves and has covenants only with him. We don't have covenants with any other Elohim. Remember, I talked about that driver's license is prima facie evidence about who you serve. It's the covenant that you have. So, when he's talking about it, thou shall have no, thou shall make no, thou shalt not bow down, thou shalt not take the name, thou. This is each man individually. Or again, it could be the corporate man as a group, but still it's individual at the same time. I want you to understand this. Let's go to 3. He says, you shall have no other Elohim existing before my face. Here, I put it here, just so we can see it. Existing before my face. This word gods, this is why I don't use gods. Because if I use God, you don't know who I'm talking about. You go to Jesus. You go to all kinds of crazy things. You don't go to Yehovah, thy Elohim. I don't use gods. I use Elohim. But Elohim has lots of meanings. This word gods or Elohim is not idols. That would be the second commandment, not the first. These Elohim are lawmakers and judges that we have covenanted with instead of only Yehovah. Covenanted with, pledged, promised by covenant. Jethro talks about these Elohim when he meets Moses. He says, now I know that Yehovah is greater than all the gods, all the Elohim. This actually says even Ha Elohim, all the gods. For in the very thing that they behaved proudly, he was above them. Those gods were the Elohim. What did they call them? The nobles in Egypt that we served. But Elohim has a much broader understanding than even this. I put the Elohim, talking about right how it's being used in this verse right here. The Elohim. These are the gods. These are gods. The gods are Pharaoh and the people who ruled over Israel. Pharaoh and all his nobles. I put Jethro, Raul, knows firsthand how wicked these rulers are. Well, look at this verse. It says, and I didn't even write it. I'm growing. I'm growing as each week, as I understand and see the Hebrew, I learn things that are different. This says, for Yehovah, your Elohim, he is Elohi of the Elohim. Another way you could write this, see this vav right here, is Elohi ha Elohim. In other words, the Elohim's master. He is the Elohim's master. He is the master's master. The great, the El, the powerful, the terrible, who are the Elohim that he's the Elohi of. Look at this. Yahweh says in Psalms 82:6, I said, you are Elohim, and all of you are the Most High's seed. We are Yahovah's seed. B'nai seed, or B'nai Elohim, Most High. We are Elohim. That's what it says. They change it to angels because they don't want you to know the authority that you have. We are the Elohim. The Ezra men are the Elohim of all those who reside in our gates, our women, our children, our servants, the Ger who dwells with us. We are the Elohim. We pray to Yehovah. And here's us. That we can ask according to anything that we desire. It said, we just read it in Deuteronomy 4. But you know what? Our women, our children, our servants, our Ger, they pray to us. Oh, my goodness. Does a woman pray to Yehovah? Oh, we see it all over the earth. But we don't understand what it is we're saying. We don't know a thing about what prayer is all about. You'll see it in the scriptures. A woman praying to her man to get the desire that she wants. Servants doing it. Even the Ger. We have Elohim in our cities. Look at this. Maybe I don't. What is going on here? What am I doing? Oh, there it goes. Okay. No, Elohim of the city. Here, let me do this. So I can't, since I'm not. Apparently didn't finish the whole verse there. So I just have to put this in and I can read it. It says, then his master shall bring him to the judges. He shall also bring him to the door. This is the servant. In fact, you know what? This is in the very next chapter. Let's just go to it. We are on 3 right now. I'm going to go to this one. Talking about if a master has given him a wife. This is all talking about a man who's coming in as a servant. But he gets to leave in a certain time. He shall be set free. He will not go in the year of release. If his master has given him a wife, and she has borne him sons and daughters, the wife and her children shall be with the master, and he shall go out by himself. But if the servant plainly says, I love my master, my woman, my son, doesn't say children, I will not go free. then the master shall bring him to the Elohim, is what it says. The Elohim, the city's Elohim. Why? He shall also bring him to the door or to a doorpost. And his master shall pierce his ear with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. Why does he have to go to the Elohim of the city? To know, they know that this man and his seed are going to serve this master forever. They're the Elohim of the city. So you see, Elohim can be good or Elohim can be bad. The Elohim of the city and Israel's seed follow Yehovah's statutes, judgments, and ordinances. The Elohim of the earth don't. Most men, I suppose you could call the average man, family man, the Elohim of his household. It's what he's supposed to be. But he doesn't serve Yehovah. He serves the dictates of his own heart. The woman, bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh, always follows her Elohim. You don't find single women running around in Israel. They all follow their own Elohim. When the man goes out, the wife stays. Why? Because she's a woman. She stays under her covering. We've got to get a better understanding of the role of a man and a role of a woman in Yehovah's kingdom. Elohim. I wanted you to see who the Elohim are. So if Yehovah's the Elohim's Elohim, he's my, if I'm an Elohim, he's my Elohim. He's my God, if you will, my lawmaker and judge, which is what he's supposed to be. This is what the first commandment's all about. You know, we tend to move towards harlotry. And one of the reasons, here, this is Numbers 15. One of the reasons Yehovah tells us to put tassels on the corners of our garments is this. Right here. Again, 37. Yehovah spoke to Moses, saying, speak to Israel's seed, the Ezra men, Israel. Tell them to make tassels on the corners of their garments throughout their generations and to put a blue thread in the tassels of the corners. And you shall have the tassel that you may look upon it and remember all the commandments of Yehovah and do them. And that you may not follow the harlotry to which your own heart and your own eyes are inclined. That you may remember to do all my commandments and be holy to your Elohim. This is what it's all about. Who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your Elohim? I am Anoki Yehovah. Elohika. Elohika. You just read it. There's another interesting thing in here, as I recall here. But the person who does anything presumptuously, whether he is Ezra or stranger, that one brings reproach on Yehovah. He shall be cut off from among his people because he has despised the word of Elohim, word of Yehovah, and has broken his commandment. That person shall be completely cut off. His guilt shall be upon him. He's talking about Israel's seed, but he's talking about this time the Ezra and the stranger. Do you see how these are all used interchangeably? They're done this way so that we make that connection between the two. And it's not until I found Exodus 12:48 that I realized how the Ger becomes the Ezra. That's the born-again experience. Those are the men that Yehovah is talking to today. Let's go back. Oh, I don't want that one. I want this one. 3. You shall have no other Elohim existing before my face. I think I went through this note. Elohim of the city. You shall make for yourself. This is the second commandment now. Okay, that was the first commandment. No other Elohim existing before our eyes. We wear the tzitzi. We wear the tzitzi. Where is it? Right there. We wear these tzitzi so that we remember not to follow the harlotry that our hearts and eyes are inclined to. Oh, we so want to follow men, but we have to learn to follow only Yehovah. Second commandment. You shall not make. This is a negative commandment. You shall have no other Elohim existing before my face. You shall make no. There's only 2 positive commandments. You could actually say there's 3, I suppose, in this chapter. But the 2 are positive ones are for keeping the Sabbath and for honoring your mother and your father. All the rest are things you're not supposed to do. This is one that you're not supposed to do. You shall not make for thyself a carved image, any likeness of anything that is in heaven, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them nor serve them. For I, Anoki Yahovah, your Elohim, thy Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the 3rd and the 4th generations of those who hate me. But look what he says, but showing mercy to thousands. Is he talking about thousands of generations, perhaps? Thousands who love me and keep my commandments. Do you want the blessing or do you want the curse? Now, I think it's really interesting. Do you know that the Catholic Church removed this commandment from the list? Here, I've got this here. Here it is. Look what it says. Catholic tradition uses the division of the commandments established by St. Augustine. Here it is. First commandment, I am Yehovah your Elohim. You shall worship Yehovah. See, they say worship. They don't even, he's talking about you shall have no other Elohim before my face. And him only you shall serve. Okay, that's good, I guess. But look at the next commandment. It's not about idols. It's about taking Yehovah's name in vain. Where's the one about idols? You guys, it's not on the list. Why? Because the Catholic Church is steeped in idols. They got things of Mary. They got things of Jesus. They got saints. They got canned fingers. They got all kinds of statues and crosses and I can't say it. They're involved in it. They're involved in sun god worship. That's what Saturnalia is all about, the winter solstice. We call it Christmas. Ishtar, the spring equinox. We call it Easter. It's all pagan, you guys. You've learned lies. These are not Yehovah's feast days. They are an abomination to Yehovah. And they are idolatry. This is part of what we're doing. We're serving these Elohim with sun god worship. If you knew what was going on inside the Catholic Church, beneath the Catholic Church, what's the place in Rome called? Wayne, help me.
Vatican.
Vatican, thank you. Yeah, the Vatican. If you knew what was going on underneath the Vatican, you'd be appalled. There's a reason the Pope wears red shoes. They're from the sacrificed people that he killed, him personally, and he's wearing their skin. Oh my gosh, you don't know what's going on. It's all going to come out in the future. Well, we'll see. We'll see. You'll see. But here's the commandments. So how did they get the extra one? Look at what they did. Here it says, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife. That's the 10th commandment. They split the 10th commandment so they could fill it in. Cheaters, cheaters. You know what? You've got to dig deeper if you want to see the truth. You've got to research. So here we're talking about keeping the Sabbath. No, here we're talking about idolatry. Again, the Catholic Church is steeped in idolatry. I would argue that even that cross around your neck could be construed as idolatry. It has nothing to do with Yehovah. It has to do with the golden calf. Who's the golden calf? Jesus. He's a modern day golden calf designed to turn you away from statutes and judgments and ordinances that Yehovah gave. We serve Yehovah, not the golden calf. Oh, I'm stepping on a few toes today, I'll tell you. How about a flag? How about the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag, talking about covenants. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I stopped saying that pledge years ago, 2000. Got kicked out of the Boy Scouts because I wasn't going to swear allegiance to a flag. I serve Yehovah, his statutes, his judgments, his ordinances. We started worshiping a snake after a while. We were disobedient in the wilderness. Yehovah had Aaron make a staff with a snake on it. We looked at the snake. We were healed. But after years, we started worshiping the snake. And I think it was Nehemiah. Maybe Samuel. One of those guys actually destroyed the staff because people were worshiping it instead of Yehovah. Oh, yeah, we do all kinds of crazy things. Verse 5. Again, it says, sons, you shall not bow down to them or serve them, for Yehovah, for Anoki, Yehovah. Again, Elohika, am a jealous Elohim, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the sons. Sons. These are not children. They are sons. He's visiting the iniquity on the sons. See, we don't know the role of a man and the role of a woman. But showing mercy to thousands of those who keep his commandments. Is it 1,000 generations? I don't know. I guess as long as we will continue keeping his commandments, he's going to show mercy. Now, the third commandment. He says, thou shalt not take the name of Yehovah, thy Elohim, in vain. For Jehovah will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. Are we talking about saying GD? JC? No. More lies that you've learned. When we swear, and the New Testament tells us, don't swear at all. Folks, you've learned lies. Don't close your damn New Testament. It was given to you by the Catholic Church in the 4th century to turn you away from Jehovah's statutes and judgments and ordinances. They codified it in with the Hebrew scriptures, not the Hebrews. The Hebrews didn't add that. It was the Catholic Church that added it. You've been played. We swear in Jehovah's name. Why? Because what Jehovah says, Jehovah does. Here, I think I've got some samples here. Yeah, I do. You shall not take the name of Jehovah, your Elohim, in vain. If you say you're going to do something, you swear it in Jehovah's name. We're going to talk about that when we get to, I don't even remember, Numbers 5, maybe. I don't know where it is. Talking about vows, taking a vow in Jehovah's name. You're going to do what you say you're going to do. If your woman takes a vow, you got to do what you say you're going to do, unless when you hear what you did, you say, no, we ain't going to do that, because you're the Elohim. You can say, no, we're not going to do that. I disavow that vow. You can do that. But if you don't say anything, then you got to do it. You can't take his name in vain. So even Jehovah swears by his own name. He says, you shall not take the name of Jehovah, your Elohim, in vain. This is the one we're on right now. Yahweh will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. Leviticus, you shall not swear by my name falsely, nor shall you profane the name of your Elohim. Who's your Elohim? He just said, Anoki Yehovah, I am Yehovah, thy Elohim. Here he says, I am Yehovah. You shall fear Yehovah, your Elohim, and serve him. You shall take oaths in his name. We take oaths in his name. New Testament says, don't swear at all. You shall fear Yehovah, your Elohim. You shall serve him, and to him you shall hold fast and take oaths in his name. Deuteronomy 10. Jeremiah says, and it shall be, if they will learn carefully the ways of my people, to swear by my name, as Jehovah lives. This is how we can do it. Jehovah lives, Jehovah lives. As they taught my people to swear by Baal. You know, you go to church. I swear, how's it go? You lay your hand on the Bible. So help me God. Who's God? What God are we talking about? This is a priest of Satan that we're standing in front of, talking about their God. We're not swearing in Jehovah's name. But, so this is what we're talking about. As Jehovah lives, as they taught my people by Baal, then they shall be established in the midst of my people. But if they do not obey, I will utterly pluck out and destroy that nation, says Jehovah. But even Jehovah makes oaths in his own name. By myself, I have sworn, says Jehovah. Here's another one. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, your servants to whom you swore by your own self, and said to them, I will multiply your descendants, your seed, as the stars of heaven, and all this land. This is the seed in the land, the seed in the land. And all this land that I have spoken of, I give it to your seed, your descendants, and they shall inherit it forever. I have land that is being reserved for me. I may die first, but Jehovah is going to raise up his Ezra men. And I think the woman, bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh, is going to be raised up with him. You can see that in Psalms 50, verse 5. Also in Isaiah 26, verse 19. Thy dead shall rise. Together with my dead body it shall rise and rejoice. This is Isaiah speaking. Jehovah is coming back. Not Jesus. Jehovah is coming back in a cloud. And he's going to raise up his dead, those who cut covenant with him by slaughter. He's talking about Passover, folks. You've been played. Got to go back to the original. So it's not about it's not about swearing, GD, JC, baloney. It's about saying that you're going to do something in Jehovah's name and not doing it. That's taking his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath. Here we are. Another positive one. First positive one. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Look what it says. 6 days thou shalt labor and do thy work. Who's he talking to? Let's find out. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of Jehovah thy Elohim. In it thou shalt do no work. Thou, nor thy son. So the son is not the thou, is he? Nor thy daughter. The daughter is not the thou. Or thy male servant, or thy female servant. Not the thou. Nor thy cattle. Not the thou. Nor thy stranger who is in your gates. Remember, we're talking about Israel's seed has strangers in their gates. Not the thou. Not the thou. Who's the thou? The only person left at this point is thy woman. But she's bone of thy bone and flesh of thy flesh. What you do, she does. And if she doesn't do it, she can't stay. Because she's going to bring sin on you. For 6 days, well, here, let me look at my notes. Who is Jehovah talking to? Okay, I put all this. The only people left are the Ezra man, who is the thou, and his woman. But the 10th commandment eliminates her as well. We're going to see that before we finish today. Jehovah is talking only to his Ezra men. Again, line upon line, precept upon precept. We've got to sort it out little by little. For in the 6 days Jehovah made the heavens and the earth and all that are in them, and rested on the 7th. Therefore Jehovah blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Well, this is about rested. Rested, nuach, rested. The noon is a picture of a seed representing continuance. Tav is a picture of a wall that separates the inside from the outside. I don't know if that's a tav or not. I always forget. It's hard to remember these things. What did I say? Combined, they mean continue outside. It's resting. The shepherd would guide his flock to a place of water. Here, the water here is water for drinking as well as green grass for pasturing. Once the flock arrives, they are free to rest after a long journey. A guided journey to a place of rest. A sigh of rest. guided journey to a place of rest. This is the end of our week. Honor your father and your mother. 5th commandment. Another positive one. This is honor. This doesn't say obey. Children, obey your parents. Remember, we get a son that won't obey his parents is stoned by his mother and his father and the men of the city. But this is talking about honoring thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which Jehovah thy Elohim is giving thee. Sometimes you can find scriptures that go along with this. If a man is stubborn, this is it right here about the son. If a man has a stubborn and rebellious son, who will not obey the voice of his father or the voice of his mother, and who, when they have chastened him, will not heed them, then the father and the mother shall take hold of him and bring him to the elders of the city. Boy, you got to be fed up with your son. To the gate of the city. And they shall say to the elders of the city, this son of ours is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey our voice. He's a glutton and a drunkard. Then all the men, Enoshi, it's men, it's plural men, plural of Ish, of the city shall stone him to death with stones. So you shall put away the evil from among you, and all Israel shall hear and fear. It says, speak to the congregation of Israel's seed, and say to them, you shall be holy, for I, Yehovah, your Elohim, am holy. Every one of you shall fear his father and mother, and keep the Sabbath. I am Yehovah, Anoki Yehovah, thy Elohim. Heavy. This word, honor, is about being heavy. To be honored, yeah. Kavad. The verb meaning to weigh heavily, to be heavy, to be honored, to be made heavy, to get honored, to make dull, to let weigh down. Heavy. This is ancient Hebrew lexicon of the Bible. Action is heavy. Abstract is honor. Someone or something that is heavy in weight, wealth, abundance, importance. We give our mother and father the respect that they deserve. We listened to their thoughts and suggestions. Not saying we have to do all those, but we listen to what they had to say out of respect for them. That's honoring your mother and your father. The next one. You shall not murder. It's 2 words. Lo. How do you even say this? I don't know how to say it. Here, I can figure out how to say it. Right here. Lo trezak. Trezak. No, trezak. Here's the word. Oops, that's not it. This one here. Rashak. Razak. You shall not murder. Razak. How is this different from killing somebody versus murdering somebody? See, this is what this is all about. You shall not murder. This is talking about premeditated killing. Razak. This is saying you shall. This says you shall razak. But the law says you shall not razak. But razak by itself looks like this, and it means kill, murder. So let's talk about this briefly. Again, here's Samuel. Thus says Jehovah of hosts, I will punish Amalek for what he did to Israel, how he ambushed him on the way when he came up from Egypt. Now go and attack Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have. Do not spare them, but kill. Moot. This is another word for killing. But kill both man and woman, infant and nursing child, ox, sheep, camel, donkey. Well, Saul didn't do it. And he got kicked out of being a king of Israel. I think he got kicked out of Israel. Here's the word. This is ancient Hebrew lexicon of the Bible, talking about murder. Versus moot, which is death or dying. There's some words here that I want you to see. The mem and the tav. The pictograph mem is a picture of water representing chaos. The tav is a picture of two crossed sticks representing a mark or sign. Combined, these mean chaos mark. I think it's the end. The end of life is what we're talking about. Chaos mark. It's mark the end. Here is Numbers talking about the avenger of blood and the cities of refuge. It says, the avenger of blood himself should put the murderer, the Razak, it's a Razak, put the murderer, the Razak, to moot. When he meets him, he shall put him to moot. If he pushes him out of hatred, or while lying in wait and hurls something at him so that he dies, or in the enmity he strikes him with his hand and he dies, the one who struck him, shall surely be put to death, moot. He is a murderer. He is a Rashak. The avenger of blood shall put the Rashak to moot, to death, when he meets him. Now you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. This is another word for killing. This happens to be shakat. We shakat a lot of our animals. The Olah offering is shakat, and then burnt up holy. And then there's another word that gets often used, harag. This is another word for smiting, destroying. When we came into Canaan, we were going to destroy all those who were in the land. This was talking about Yehovah. So I say to you, let my son go that he may serve me. But if you refuse to let me go, I will harag your son, your firstborn. That's what happened. He killed all of them in the city. So that is, thou shalt not murder. The next one is, you shall not commit adultery. Oh my goodness. You know, there are so many commandments that we really don't have a clue what they mean. We talked about the first commandment, about Elohim. You shall have no other Elohim existing before my face. He's talking to men who left the Elohim of their birth and now serve only Yehovah. Talk about taking his name in vain. Oh, that one is so misused. Nobody knows. Nobody even knows his name. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. What's his name, you ask them? They don't know. They don't know his name. Yeah, we're supposed to swear by his name. Well, this is another one that we don't have a clue what it means. Talking about committing adultery. What does it mean to commit adultery? I wrote an article about this. Creation of man, adultery. 1, polygyny. But this is about a man sleeping with another man's woman. This is what adultery is. A man sleeping, having sex with another man's woman. That is adultery. Nothing more. Sleeping with a woman who is not your wife, who doesn't belong to another man, is not adultery. But do you know that I would guess because of the training that we have received? You know, the Catholic Church doesn't want families to grow big. If a man has multiple wives, and Jehovah says men can have multiple wives. I'll show you that in just a moment. We can grow big families. Jacob had 2 wives and 2 concubines, 12 sons and a daughter, at least 1 daughter, maybe more. He grew a big family. David, 12 wives, probably more concubines. Same with Saul or Solomon. Abraham had 3 wives. Sarah, Keturah, she was kind of a concubine. I'm sorry, not Keturah, Hagar was kind of a concubine. And then Keturah. That's 3 wives. How many sons did he have altogether? 8, 12? I forget exactly how many it was. The Catholic Church does not want big families. You can't control big families. We've learned that polygamy is against the law. But we don't know what polygamy versus polygyny is. When you get married with a marriage license, you actually marry the state. The state is the head of that merger. I'm going to call it a merger. That's what it is. It's a merger between one person and another person. Not a man and a woman, a person and a person. This is why you can have gays do it, because they're 2 persons. Here, let me just read a few things to you. The man who commits adultery with another man's woman, that's what adultery is. He has committed adultery with his neighbor's woman. The adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. 2014, that's this one here. Whoever commits adultery with a woman lacks understanding. He who does so destroys his own soul. You know, we have been trained by all the movies, all the books. Oh, my husband committed adultery. I got to get rid of him. And we don't know what we're doing. Even the man who slept with another woman, who's not married to another man, thinks that he committed adultery, and he didn't. Now, am I promoting men sleeping around with unmarried women? No. But am I promoting a man taking another woman to himself as his woman when he's already got one? Yeah, I am. You can have multiple women in Jehovah's kingdom. If a man takes another woman, he shall not I got to remember. I don't remember.
Diminish the first one's
marital rights. You shall not diminish your food, clothing, or marital rights. Thanks, Wayne. I appreciate that. Yeah, well, I think I am even going to get to that here. We'll see if I do or not. Maybe not. Yeah, I am, because I've got another thing I want to look at. This is Deuteronomy 22. Look what it says. But if a man finds a betrothed young woman in the countryside, and the man forces her and lies with her, then only the man who lay with her shall die. But if a woman shall do nothing, but you shall do nothing to the woman, there is in the young woman no sin deserving of death. For just as when the man rises against his neighbor and kills him, even so in this matter, for he found her in the countryside, and the betrothed woman cried out, but there was no one to save her. Well, maybe she did and maybe she didn't, but she's given the benefit of the doubt. Now, I want to go to this link here. This is multiple women. That's a topic note that I put together in my eSword. It says polygamy is a man-made deception, a sleight of hand to turn us away from polygyny, which is part of Jehovah's eternal and unchanging plan. Did you hear that? We're being played. It's a deception. We don't know it. Let me explain. This is one of those topics that we find difficult to understand with our Babylonian minds. I would like to just point out the following technical points for the sake of better understandings. Here's polygamy. This is polygamy. This is what is illegal. Illegal if you have a marriage license. If you're a person, there's so much. There's so much here. The condition or practice of having more than one spouse. Hear that? Spouse. I put it in capital letters because it's a concept that is steeped in corporate law. Person would be all capitalized. A man and a woman is not a person. A human is a person. The color of man. Human. That's what he is. Color of man. But he's not a man. He's a human. He's a straw man. He's an artificial person. He's a corporate fiction. That's what spouse is. The condition or practice of having more than one spouse at a time. It's illegal. It's not unlawful. It's illegal. And by implication will include same-sex marriages, because you can have two spouses. They're still spouses. It's not about sex. And thus not in line with Jehovah's word, with what Jehovah's word teaches us. Well, polygyny, the condition or practice of having more than one woman, and I don't know why I put woman in all caps, having more than one woman, I don't want that in caps, of course, at one time. In Greek, poly means multiple or many, and gune means woman. This is what I would say Jehovah's word does teach us. Please, you can read this on my site. If you go to my site, let me just click on it. I want you to see where it's at so you can read it. Here it is, creation of man, adultery, polygamy. That's where you'll find it under weareisrael.org. Creation of man, adultery, polygamy. I remember when in my Greek classes that gune was woman. This is very interesting. The distinction between polygamy and polygyny, the same word that GYN doctors comes from, gynecology, well, subtle, has a huge implications. A couple legally married, again, I'm putting it in all caps. This is done legally in the maritime law jurisdiction, not in the land jurisdictions, with a state marriage license, is an espousal relationship between the state, one man, one woman. in this relationship, the man's Elohim, the state, says that polygamy, multiple spouses, is illegal. You hear what's going on here? Really, the man and the woman in a legal marriage with a marriage license, they're equal. The man's not ahead of the woman. The state is ahead of the woman as the state is ahead of the man. Incidentally, all the offspring that come from the relationship ultimately belong to the state, who can take any or all of them from you. Oh, you guys, this is so incredibly, we don't understand this. But the man who does not have a covenant with the state, usually through the driver's license, and has asked for state's permission to be legally married by applying for and receiving a marriage license, that man simply has more than one woman in his life, or polygyny. They are all lawfully married under Yahovah. You know, every state in the land honors a marriage covenant. This is how people used to be married, is by a marriage covenant. It's only recently that they started doing a marriage license, and it started when a black man or a white man wanted to marry a black woman, or vice versa. I forget which one it was. Then they had to get permission because that was illegal. So that's when they started playing these games. I knew there was a reason why I call polygamy the P word. Now I see it is an evil word and is like flies and is like flies in the face. One more clever deception of the world. That's what it is. It's a clever deception of the world to take control of your families, of Yahovah's eternal and unchanging ways. Look at the words of Yahovah through Moses, that we are allowed to add or subtract, that we are not allowed to add or subtract from. Here it is. If a man takes another woman, he shall not diminish her food, there it is, diminish her food, clothing, or marital rights. Her sex, her food, her clothing, or the amount of sex that she gets. Got to be the same. If a man has two women, one loved and the other unloved, and they have borne him children, sons, both the loved and the unloved. And if the firstborn son is one of her who is loved, who is unloved, then it shall be on the day that he bequeaths his possessions to his sons, that he must not bestow the firstborn status on the son of the loved wife in preference of the son of the unloved, the true firstborn. But he shall acknowledge the son. The whole point is there's two women here. He's got sons by both of them. You know, in the New Testament, Titus chapter 3, it talks about deacons and bishops. You won't find those in Torah. But he says there's supposed to be men of one wife. He doesn't say there's supposed to be men who are married. He says there's supposed to be men of one wife. What does that mean? It means some of these men have more than one wife. Somebody's got their mic open. Nancy, I think it's you, baby. Did you want to say something, hon? Okay.
No, it just my phone
Okay.
hit it. So.
Okay, that's fine. Great. So most people have no clue what adultery actually is. Instead, their theology comes from the doctrines and traditions of men. This is my whole point. We think adultery is being with another woman. That's not adultery. You can take another woman to yourself. Sleeping around, I don't think it's a good thing, but it's not adultery if she's not married. Don't leave your husband over that. Work things out. Bring the second woman into the marriage if you have to. There's remedies. Man, this has broken up a lot of marriages, let me tell you. Now, a woman sleeping with another man, regardless of how he's married, not apropos. You get kicked out of the house for that. Here's the next one. You shall not steal. Pretty straightforward. I mean, here's Leviticus. You shall not steal, nor deal falsely, nor lie to one another. False weights, all those things, that's stealing. We're being robbed by the government that we think is good for us. I knew after 9/11 that our government was not good for us. And you shall not swear by my name falsely, nor shall you profane the name of your Elohim. I am Yehovah, Anoki Yehovah. You shall not bear false witness. Again, sometimes the other scriptures that talk about the same thing helps us understand what's going on. Do not go about saying untrue things among your people, or take away the lifeblood of your neighbor by false witness. Don't lie in court to get somebody hurt. This is why we usually have 2 or more witnesses. One witness shall not rise against a man concerning any iniquity or any sin that he commits. By the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, the matter shall be established. If the false witness rises against any man to testify against him of wrongdoing, then both men in the controversy shall stand before Yehovah, before the priest and the judge who serves in those days, and the judge shall carefully make inquiry. And indeed, if the witness is a false witness who has testified falsely against his brother, then you shall do to him as he sought to have done to his brother. So you shall put away the evil from among you, and those who remain shall hear and fear, and hereafter they shall not again commit such evil among you. Your eye shall not pity, life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. You shall not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Last one. This is the 10th commandment. Remember, the Catholic Church took the 10th commandment and made it 2 commandments because they had to fill in the gap for taking away the idol one. Here's what it says. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Let me do that. Thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's woman. Oh, look at that. Isn't that interesting? Remember, when we talked about keeping the Sabbath, it was about thy sons and daughters, male servants, female servants, your livestock, and the ger who dwells with you. The only one left out was who? The woman. Here she is. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's woman, nor his male servant. The thou is always a man. The man owns the house. The man owns the servant. The man owns the ox, the donkey, anything that is thy neighbor's. But he also owns his woman. The wife, they translated as wife here. There is no word for wife in Torah. It's thy neighbor's woman. You shall not covet thy neighbor's woman. This is what they did. They made the 9th commandment, you shall not covet thy neighbor's woman. And then they said, you shall not covet thy neighbor's possessions. Well, the woman is the possession. She got second billing to the house. You shall not covet thy neighbor's house, thy neighbor's woman. Doesn't say thy neighbor's man. No, his woman. Nor his male servant, nor his female servant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, or anything that is thy neighbor's. Do you see what's going on here? This is just more proof who Yehovah is talking to when he gave these commandments at Mount Sinai. He was talking to Israel's seed, the Ezra men. Israel! Now the people witnessed the thunderings of, what do I have for a note here? I think I made my point. We'll go on. Now the people witnessed. This is the people. Who are the people? Israel's seed, the Ezra men. Israel. Now all the people witnessed the thundering and the lightning flashes, the sound of the trumpet, and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they trembled and stood afar off. You know, I think it's interesting in Yasher, it says they rejoiced when they heard the words of Yehovah. And here they're saying they were terrified. And they said to Moses, "You speak with us, and we will hear. But let not Yehovah, let not Elohim speak with us, lest we die." They're afraid they're going to die. Is their sin being exposed, perhaps, as they're hearing these commandments come on them and they're seeing the fear in their eyes? And Moses said to the people, "Do not fear, for the Elohim has come to test you." The Elohim has come to test you, and that his fear may be before you. This is now you. They're using it second person masculine plural instead of the they, the thy that we've been using all along. Now it's actually the you. Y'all, as V would say. And his fear may be upon y'all, so y'all may not sin. So the people stood afar off. But Moses drew near to the thick darkness. Moses is going to go up the mountain where the Elohim was. This is another time that he's going up the mountain, the fourth time that he's going up the mountain. It's interesting because the last time he came down from the mountain, Yehovah told him then that when he comes up, he's supposed to bring Aaron. He didn't bring Aaron. He's not just talking about going up the mountain right now. Then Yehovah said to Moses, he's up in the mountain, "Thus you shall say to Israel's seed." Again, he's speaking to Israel's seed, the Ezra men. I'm trying to drive this into you guys so that you understand who Israel's seed is. Spiritually born men, multiple generations of spiritually born men. That's Israel's seed. Adam's seed is multi-generations of men that come from Adam. Noah's seed are multi-generations of men that come from Noah. When we're talking about Israel, we're talking about spiritually born seed. That happens at Passover. Then Yehovah said to Moses, "Thus you shall say to Israel's seed, you have seen that I have talked with you from the mountain." This is again y'all. "And you all shall not make anything to me, anything to be with me, Elohim of silver or gold, or Elohim of silver or Elohims of gold. You shall not make for yourselves." He's talking about idols. So again, this is something that we're not supposed to make. And isn't it interesting? He's talking about idols twice. Now he says what we're supposed to do. He says, "An altar of earth you shall make for me, and you shall slaughter on it the olah offering." Here's the words that we're using here. You shall slaughter. I guess I don't have the word for slaughter. "You shall slaughter on it the olah offering and the peace offering, your sheep and your oxen. Every place where I record my name. The word they're using here is zakar. Zakar. Every place where my name is recorded, I will come to you and I will bless you. Oh my goodness. You know what? I can't wait to have my own property. Very soon, probably within the year, 2 years at the most, I'm going to have a property, a large property. And on that property, I'm going to build an altar. And I'm going to bring Olah and Shalomim offerings to Yehovah. The Shalomim, I just have to put the blood on the altar and I get to eat the rest of it. This is what we did in the last chapter, 2 chapters ago, we're on 20, on 18, when Jethro, slaughtered his flocks. And then they ate with Israel's elders. It was food. But when he did that, he invokes Yehovah's name, and it says, Yehovah will come to you and bless you. Do you want to be blessed by Yehovah? He says, build an altar of earth. He says, if you can make me an altar of stones, you shall not build it of hewn stones. You can't do it from stones that have been cut. For if you use a tool on it, you have profaned it. So it's got to be natural stones, broken small pieces that happen naturally. Nor shall you go up by steps to my altar, that your nakedness shall not be exposed on it. Well, this is the end of chapter 20 of Exodus. It's a wealth of information for those who have ears to hear, eyes to see, and a heart that wants to understand. We talked about a lot of things today. Oh my, yeah, we sure did. Things that I'm sure will stir you up. But listen to what I'm saying. Search the scriptures for yourself. You'll see it. You'll see it. And we've talked about many of these things throughout past weeks. And we're going to talk about it many, many more weeks. We're on 92, our 92nd teaching in Torah right now. And we're only to Exodus 20. Where are we going to be at the end of Deuteronomy? 300? 400? 500 classes? I don't know. It'll be a bunch. It takes a while to get through all this. But it's a joy. It's a joy if you want to learn Yehovah's ways, if you want to dig deeper and understand, develop new understandings. Boy, we've learned a lot of doctrines and traditions of men, and we need to knock them down, bury those traditions and doctrines, and raise up new ideas in our minds. It's going to allow us to build deeper understandings in Yehovah's word and get to know him better. We want to know Yehovah. That's what it's all about. Well, I have to stop now. Thank you for joining me today, and we'll see you next time. Love you so much. Bye now.